Hey, Trainer Weaves here! Today I'm going to teach you about Pokemon stats, appraisals, and why 100% IVs are not everything. This is actually an update of my 2018 Beginner's Guide video Deep Dive into Pokemon Go. Since I made that, the appraisal system has been completely overhauled. Some of the stats I used as an example have been changed, and generally it needs an update. So here we are! First up, this is the Pokemon screen. Right at the top you'll see CP, and this is an overall estimate of each Pokemon's power. It takes into account a bunch of the hidden stats behind each Pokemon, mashes them up through a formula, and gives you an overall rough estimate that you could use to compare it with a different Pokemon. CP is also critical for determining PvP leagues. I'm not going to talk very much about PvP, but basically there are 3 separate leagues. Great League will only let you compete with Pokemon below 1500 CP. Ultra League will only let you compete with Pokemon below 2500, and Master League has no limit. So how is the CP actually derived? Well, there are 4 main numbers that go into that. Your 3 Pokemon stats, which are Attack, Defense, and Stamina, or HP. And don't confuse that HP with the actual hit points of a Pokemon, it's a different number that sits in the background. Why it's called HP, I don't know, but that's what you get in Appraisal, so that's what it is. And then on top of that, there's a Pokemon's level. The 3 stats, Attack, Defense, and HP, get broken down further into base stats and individual values, and I'll talk about those later. Pokemon's level is never explicitly shown within Pokemon Go, but you can derive it from this arc that you can see sitting behind the Pokemon screen. It's a little bit difficult to get the exact level by eye because the arc actually changes depending on your trainer level. My trainer is level 40, and the maximum Pokemon can be is level 40. So that arc from me goes from 0 to 40. If you're a level 20 trainer, then the arc will go from 0 to 22. Your Pokemon's level is where the white dot sits on the arc, so you can see part of it's filled up with white, and then there's a dot, and then the rest of it's grey. The dot is your Pokemon's level. To further complicate things, it's not actually a linear distribution, so it's not like the same distance for each level as you go across the arc. The space between a level 1 and 2 is massive on the left, and then as you get closer to the right, it gets smaller and smaller. Regardless, you can still use the dot to make an estimate of where one Pokemon compares to another. And you can further guess by looking at the Stardust cost to power up. Further down on the screen, you'll see the Power Up button, and this is how you change your Pokemon's level, which in turn changes the multiplier applied to the CP and the multiplier applied to all your stats, and therefore your Pokemon is stronger. What it doesn't do is change any of your Pokemon's individual stats, so Attack, Defense, and Stamina, or HP. If you have a 0-star Pokemon, powering up won't change that, it'll still be a 0-star Pokemon with the same stats. The only way to change an individual Pokemon's stats is to trade your Pokemon away and the stats get re-rolled. But since in Go you can't trade Pokemon back, it's gone forever. So what actually is the star rating? I mentioned individual values earlier, and those combined create the star rating that you see when you go through the team leader appraisal for each Pokemon. The appraisal screen now actually shows you explicitly what your Pokemon's individual values are. So that's a nice change. So in this example, this is a Mime Junior that I've hatched, and I've not powered it up, which means it's definitely going to be a level 20. And as you can see, that dot is most definitely not halfway across the arc. Going into the appraisal, it's a 3-star Pokemon. And you can see the attack is in the top third, defense is very near the end, and HP is also in the top third. IVs actually go from 0 to 15. So in this case, that breaks down to attack being 13, defense being 14, and HP being 12. One way of looking at IVs is to say that if you add all 3 15s together, you get 45. So if you add all 3 of these individual values together, you get 39, which is 87% of 45. Therefore, this Mime Junior is an 87% Pokemon. And obviously, a Pokemon with 15 in every stat would be 100%, and a Pokemon with 0 in every stat would be 0%. Bringing that back around to the stars, each star rating corresponds to a percentage of the numbers. So 100% is, you could refer to it as 4 stars, and if you try and use the search in Pokemon Go, then you get your 100%ers. But technically, you don't actually see 4 stars. You see 3 stars and a pink background. A 3-star Pokemon is anything from 82 to 98%. A 2-star Pokemon is 66 to 80%. 1 star is 51 to 65%. And 0 is 0 to 50%. and all those Pokemon from 0 to 3 stars have a yellow or orange background on their badge instead of a pink one. But IVs aren't everything, and now I'm going to tell you why. This is because the IV is actually a very small component of your Pokemon's overall stat. Arguably the more important part is your base stats, and base stats are, again, attack, defense, and HP, but they're derived from your Pokemon's species. So, for example, Espeon and Mewtwo. Both of them are very good Psychic Pokemon, and both of them have very different base stats. For Espeon, we have Attack 261, Defense 175, and Stamina 163. With Mewtwo, we have Attack 300, Defense 182, and Stamina 214. The base stats for every Espeon in the game will be the same, and the base stats for every Mewtwo in the game will be the same. What differs is the IVs in each Pokemon, their individual values for the Pokemon that you've caught. The base stats and the IVs get added together to give you the total value for your Pokemon. Add 15 to those, and it becomes very obvious that at the same level, the worst Mewtwo will still have a higher attack than the best Espeon. So 100% Espeon will have 276 attack, but a 0% Mewtwo will still have 300 attack. Obviously, this is an extreme example because Mewtwo is a very powerful Pokemon. It's just an illustration of why getting 100% of something is not necessarily the be-all and end-all of everything. If you're doing PvP in the Great League, I've already said that the Great League is limited to Pokemon that are 1500 CP or below. Because attack is quite heavily weighted in the CP formula, you might actually want a 0% attack Pokemon with higher stats in the other areas, because the way the level multiplier works, you could actually get it to be more powerful if you could push it up a few extra levels and still not break that CP barrier. So there's a lot of factors that go into Pokemon. This is just one small part of it, and I'll have more videos going through type effectiveness and other things later. But thank you very much for watching. I have an Instagram, which I will link below. I also stream on Twitch, not so much Pokemon Go, but a lot of other games, so if you're interested in that, give me a follow over there. Thank you very much for watching, hit like, subscribe if you'd enjoyed this, and I'll see you next time. Goodbye!